Okay, we're back. And this time, we really are with an old friend.
Yeah.
And Carey Crockett and I go back in terms of the Forest Theater and Carmel and Stevenson School and the State Theater, you name it. And Carey has designed some incredible sets, not only for me and my directing and producing, but for virtually everybody on the peninsula. I would have to say, frankly, and you fellas out here, listen to this. This is probably the most innovative, creative man I have ever met, okay? And some of the things that he's able to do are absolutely dumbfounding, okay? And Carey, you've got a program ready for us, right?
Yep.
And the kind of Renaissance man that Carey is in the arts for all of us, this is a shining example. So let's get one of those PowerPoints up, because I understand you have a voluminous amount of them.
I didn't know how to prepare for this, so I just
there you
had
go.
plenty.
Here we go.
This is with my nephew, Brian.
Okay.
Creativity starts out very early.
Yep.
In this case, he was 3.
Yep.
And he's watched me paint a drop. That's him at lunch when he was 20 or 21.
Okay. I
That's just
Brian.
a pencil drawing with Macintosh added afterwards. Inspiration comes from strange places. In my case, Walt Disney when I was a child.
Okay.
And I had a hero, Popeye, among other things.
Okay.
Of course, and wanted to work for Disney when I was a kid.
Okay.
I also was involved in theater, the Tanamount Theater in Carmel Valley.
Sure.
Those are masters puppeteers back in the 60s, and that painting was done in the 30s. And this is my first work when I was about 10 out in Carmel Valley at a festival. So I had a lot of fun early on. I got involved both in theater and in the arts, both the same. I started making signs and a living at 12 or 13, actually, not much.
Yep.
We toured in theater. We're taught classical theater, which is a good basis for anybody who is planning to go on to become an actor and to work in creativity. This is Bill Lewis. He worked at Forest Theater in '71. This is an image that was done with Marcia Hovick and Lowell Schuler back in the 80s. And that's Bill Lewis towards the end of his life. So over time, these are all drawings. A lot of them are drawings, and some are photographs. This is the art school that I went to in Seattle, where I learned the basics of art. And a lot of things that they teach you in school teach art as though it all has to do with talent. It really does come down to a very simple set of processes that if you learn them, make it much easier for anybody to learn how to do art. And I went to art school for about 2.5 years. All of these people were seasoned professionals, and all of them taught me some major point, some of them more than others, but my first working in film was in Seattle with Coffin and Company. He was a very interesting man. His wife worked for the Seattle Opera as a singer. So these are running a lot faster when I'm trying to talk. So we did storyboards and did educational films up in Seattle at that time. And these are the 3 old men. They're all passed on now. And they all played a significant part in my education. This is the first work I did for the Seattle Opera. There's a rough of Tosca as it was being developed. And this is all before computers. All that was what they called hand-separated art, and very graphic, including the lettering you see there I did.
Yeah, okay.
And this is Boris Godunov. So you're getting, I feel like I'm running over with all sorts of things.
Fine.
There's some detail. Some of the pieces, having been an actor, I drew a lot on my acting experience and my background in classical theater. I worked for ABC as a courtroom illustrator for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And there you see them. Very interesting. There was somebody that you talked to earlier about observing things and about life.
Yes.
Drawing, I think they missed out on an opportunity with cameras in the courtrooms because you would watch and observe what a person would do and their gesture and movement or attitude, and you would draw that. I'd watch for about 5 minutes, and then I'd watch somebody would make a gesture. And you pick up those type of details, and it tells more of the story.
Right.
So.
Okay. This is more work.
This is Seattle Opera. This is
Seattle Opera. Okay.
This is I mixed these up, went back and forth because at the time I was working for a number of theaters doing promotion.
Right.
And at the same time I was working
at the courts and sustaining yourself, making a living.
Yes. And I was working as an actor in Seattle Center. I was doing children's theater.
Okay. Okay.
This is Carmen, that lettering I did, and that's Jo Byer. She was a great actress up in Seattle. Really, one of the best I'd ever worked with.
Okay.
And so I worked for the Symphony and the Repertory Company, and Seattle Opera, and about 10 other theaters in the Seattle area. And just found it fascinating. It was a great time in my life, right after high school and heading into my mid-20s. And all of it served me very well, and I met some wonderful people there.
Remember, this is all of Carey's work that you're looking at. Okay.
Now, most of what you see are straight drawings, and because of the limited time, a lot of them were done in coffee shops or over coffee, so they weren't well developed. Although what I did with my scenic painting and graphics or murals took weeks to do.
Right.
I think that's in another section.
Okay. All right.
I was in Seattle for, as I said, almost 7 years, and all these people had a major influence on my way of thinking about art and theater.
Okay.
So, and I think that's the last one in this particular series.
All right. Then,
so I'll let you talk.
Okay. so you know, one of the amazing experiences one of many with Carey. Carey does these gigantic drops, and we needed one, I forgot for what show, I think it was Into the Woods, and we're talking about something that's 30 feet by 60 feet, gigantic, muslin cloth, and it served as the background for some of the productions. And we didn't have a big enough space at Stevenson for Carey to really work in, so we kind of put it outside below the theater, and Carey would come down with rollers, brush, and a big bucket. And he would be rolling away, and I would talk to him, and in the back of my mind, I'm going, what on earth is going on here? There can't possibly be anything. He has no idea what he's doing. He hasn't drawn it out. He's not doing it by the numbers. What is going on here? And he's carrying on this conversation with me about a completely different matter, So this was back in the early 90s, late 80s. Sure enough, that huge thing dries out, and it gets time for us to put it up, and I, dumbfounded, here's the woods, here's the witch, here's this gigantic sun, and I had no idea. I got to ask you this now, where did that come from? How do you do that?
Well, it really is quite simple, and it sounds silly to say that, but it is. It's a matter of different techniques combining together, knowing how to do them after a certain amount of practice, with guidance from somebody who observes and teaches you something from the outside. And I really give that credit to all of my inspiration along the way, and my natural interest in study, because it really does come down to very simple principles. What is the problem? Divide it up. Divide and conquer, very simple thing. What are the elements? And if you can do that and compartmentalize, you can be painting away while you're running your lines. And to know there are different categories. You've had people that do three-dimensional art, sculptures, and you've had people that do two-dimensional art, and it really does come down to applying the right technique at the right time and having enough knowledge to where you can relax when you're doing it. And it is not out of the possibility of anybody to learn that. I think if education has tricked us, it is said to us that arts aren't that important, and they don't put the same time in as they would for arithmetic or writing or any of that. But an art program that comes once a week or once a month these
Or
days,
not at all.
or not at all, is a loss, because it is something that it's not what goes down on the surface. It's what your idea is ultimately, and what you're communicating in performance as well. If you are performing as an actor, you really need to do your research, and then you forget about it and go on and do it. But you've done 6 weeks of rehearsal before that, and my rehearsal was early on.
Yeah.
Over the years.
And I think you're being very gracious, but I personally think that it's a gift. And I notice and that could almost be a definition of innovation, creativity, is hard work that's put into mastering your skills, and then having the external stimulus and the hard work coming together, creating this innovative new platform or whatever it is. But that's kind of what we're working with, and we will try to have our students to have the rigor and the self-discipline and to be able to learn the fundamentals. And then you take that learning and you have your challenge from the outside, and you get your drops. But I think, frankly, I think sometimes people are wired differently, and if you don't see this happen, as I've seen it repeatedly happen with you, and these things appear, Carey, that's a real gift, and I feel very fortunate that you've been able to share your gift with so many people here in our experience. Do we have more of his? Let's go with.
Part of it is inspiration, really. Everyone has a certain thing that they find the core of what they want to do. They do their life different ways and express them in different ways, and it all comes down to the commitment of time.
There it is. This is
Forest Theater, 1971. Forest Theater at that time came back as a theater that focused on Shakespeare. And you'd have somebody at the back of the theater saying, "I can't hear your L's." And during that time, there was changes. There have been at least 5 administrations with the Forest Theater Guild. This is this here.
This is the one that I actually directed.
With Stephen Moore as Tom Jones.
Yep.
And this is Pipe Dream.
There's Pipe Dream with the Steinbeck.
And there's a couple of pieces with that. There's a great shot at night. There was great fires there, and the great thing was to see the trees.
And that was real community theater. Yeah.
This is a drawing. You may have that drawing. It's for the original set design for Brigadoon.
Okay.
And they all start as an idea of what you have. This one was a lot of fun. This is Showboat, and that's the original drawing, and you can kind of see from the. This is a floor plan. I don't know why I put that in there, but that's the floor plan in terms of how it worked. I had to think out all those things.
Yeah,
and the next shot is the actual showboat, and it really is. It was 29 feet 6 inches.
Yes.
And it actually came on stage.
Yep.
You didn't see it at the beginning of the show. Yeah, and this is the development. This is an English student that we had. I don't remember what his name was.
Nigel, I believe.
Nigel?
Yeah.
So he was, I think, less than 18 years old.
Yes.
I can't really see what that is. This is development in various stages.
Okay.
This does cover the Forest Theater in 89 and 90.
Okay.
And 90, when we go into that, is really the apprentice program.
Right.
Which we had about, 7 different high schools participating, from 16 to 18 years old, and they had classes in the morning, and then the afternoon they built all the scenery with guidance from those of us who were in charge.
And it was meaningful instruction because you had to build the set. You had to get this done. And so you learned it was not something you did just to do it. I mean, we had to have the sets done.
You had a plan.
Yes.
And in film in particular, that's very important because that can make a difference in terms of your budget when you have 40 people paid at top rates and they're wasting an hour of time. That's not really
There's 7
condoned.
rights. Yeah, absolutely. And
This, I don't know if how much they show up, because there is detail within these that kind of show the process of building, so that you have a plan of action for if you're building 3 sets. We built this entire set behind a set that was playing live every night,
Right.
and so none of the pieces could be seen above the set in front of it. So we built them, as I remember, up to 10 feet, and then anything above that was built and attached later.
Right.
This is Annie, get your gun.
Annie, get your gun.
Very simple set as it was.
Right. And everybody can see the art. You can see the visual art in the set design. You can see Carey's plans and use of color and just some outstanding.
This is the apprentice program.
Yeah, there it is.
What was interesting about that apprentice program is I've more or less kept in track with all of them. One of them was this is a model for the set. It opened up as the globe and became the set for the show.
Right.
And that I don't know how much detail people can see on that. It might be interesting in this section to show show it in full camera.
Yeah.
Because you can see the step-by-step work that's being done backstage. We had a great company of 10 people who worked there and then ran the shows.
Yep.
And among them was one person from NYU, and Rada, who was there, who is one of the main people I had, about 23 years old, who got married to Joe Lynch.
Ah, yes.
And they now, I think there's pictures of them.
Former student of mine, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And I keep track of them and run into them from time to time. All of them went on to work at university level in theater in some way, and they had, when they left that summer after doing 3 shows, their training was better than a year of college work with what they were exposed to.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it was a great, fun season, as I remember.
It's a costume class and building costumes, building sets.
So
Absolutely. Okay.
I don't know how much you can see of that, but I assume.
Yeah, you could
that's
see
fine.
quite a bit.
So there were also during this production, after they built all 3 sets, they had a couple weeks left over. They put together a show that they toured locally.
Ah, yes.
And this is Jill and Thane down in LA when we were down there visiting them, and this is these are 2 of their 3 children, and these kids are now 18 years old, the oldest one.
Oh, Carey, don't remind me. Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Right.
And this, of course, that's
Les
a
Mis.
drawing for Les Mis. I've been involved with 3 productions, the most recent closing this weekend over at MPC in their new theater.
Yep.
And that's Eric Maximov, who did the barricades for us. Actually, I was very proud of the work we did on that production in particular.
Yeah, there's Larry Welsh. In
2002.
Yep. That's set.
And there we are.
Here we
Hi,
are.
everybody.
We're back. We're back. We've got. You have another one of these too, don't you?
Actually,
We have
yeah,
several
I have
more?
too many.
Oh, you have too many. Well,
I would say what we could do is we could go straight. I don't know what time we have.
We have 9 minutes.
The last one talks about 9 minutes. So we could you can ask me some more questions, because the last one talks about the future. Or we could run that now, and you could talk about. Have some
Carey,
questions
tell me
afterwards.
about the Les Mis set, that the MPC production, and we can't actually. We're not pushing it because it's sold out. Okay,
Nope.
so you can't.
And they
get
added a
ticket.
production. They added a show. And
Okay,
it's sold out.
And how was that different
Okay.
working on that set than the one that you did for Larry way back in the early 2000?
A lot of extra Benjamin Franklins and so forth.
Oh, okay.
Basically, what you come down to is theater. You can be involved at any level from. Can you design our set for our children's show? We'll give you $150 extra, and that's it. And it's a learning experience. Or sometimes you do it out of the love of it.
Yes.
And then sometimes you have a budget, and then sometimes you have a much better budget. And at MPC, with their new facility,
Yes.
Dan Beck has a remarkable capacity over his years there to have gathered things that he reuses. And the turntable is 37 feet 6 inches and turns on hydraulics. So they can move a ton or 2 tons or 5 tons of scenery on almost as fast as a merry-go-round, if you wanted to, with full, in other words, the entire actors in a scene are upstage right, and pivot on stage to down center without moving. They're all sitting at their tables and ready to go as the students or drinkers. And it does come down to budget and planning.
Right.
And they have amazing resources. Their lighting on this show is the new facility is exceptional. So it's just a matter of budget. And in that case, I was not designer. I was painter for it.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
And we had Charlie Houghton, who worked at the Forest Theater in the 70s, who came to light it, and he's all over the country now.
Okay.
And it's fabulous looking production and production values. You can talk all sorts of things about production values.
Yes. And I think also as a career technical institution, and actually this whole complex is career tech, according to the California Department of Education, you have managed to make a career out of doing what you love. Okay,
Absolutely.
You're a designer, you're a painter, you're an actor. You've kept this all together, and it's possible to do that.
Yeah, it is possible. I think now would be a good time to roll that last section.
Oh, okay.
The one about the future.
Okay.
Because what we're talking about here kind of runs into that.
Sure.
Storyboarding and working in film and the processes that we're doing here right today, or starting with. There are so many more opportunities for involvement with students with the type of materials you have accessible to them, and the education and the access to the web, all sorts of information, and what you want to build is curiosity. Now, these are storyboards that were done from back in the 80s, I think, which were all done on little prepared pieces of paper, and with the type under them, and they were drawn separately. Whereas now I can take an iPad. I'm going to show you that comes up here in a minute. I can take an iPad, record the session while I'm talking on a brainstorming session with 6 or 10 people. Record the session so I remember it later. Do very simple treatments of the ideas that are discussed, and then also do images on the iPad that are more comprehensive. Then take them home at the computer and doctor them any number of ways in a very short time. Now this piece here is from a show called Time Twist, which is a time travel sequence. You can see the Tyrannosaur in the background.
Right.
That had been taken a number of steps. There are a few frames in that that show thinking processes of storyboarding. And from that, then various steps develop beyond that.
Okay.
All sorts of things are going to come out of the work that comes here in terms of making it more flexible and creative. The areas, I think, like you were talking earlier about the skill of drawing, those things can be taught, or at least comprehended enough. Now, this is where we have a raptor who changes himself goes in the future and decides he's going to change himself into what he considers the best of human and raptor traits.
Oh, okay.
So these are all done very relatively quickly, and comprehensively, and they have worked very well for working with different types of filmmakers. And let's see, I'm trying to. I think I put quite a number of pieces in here. There was a project I worked on called Darkness, which had a whole series that was developed to a point of some finish. You could see it. We actually photographed the board that we had when we were getting ready to shoot part of it.
Right. This is all storyboarding for film video. Okay. What we
and
are
can
going to do
be
here.
altered any number of ways. Some of them draw the construction of what the shot's going to look like, and they have the figure put in it, and there's not much detail. Some of them take the whole series of shots in like a one-page shorthand of it. And this was a girl walking in Santa Cruz, and that was the girl from the 1500s when she appears on the other side of darkness. And there's a drawing there, and the second one is treated with on Macintosh. So you can get all sorts of effects. Very simply.
And this is all part of your story.
It's all part of technique and and balancing it with computers.
Sure. Okay. And a place where art and technology have merged and have a good relationship, symbiotic relationship with one another. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, these I think these panels right here are photographs of the actual panels as they existed. There were two stories. The ones on the top run consecutively across the top, and the ones on the bottom are from another scene. But you can see it was taken to a much more comprehensive level, but not in we put this together in a relatively short time, about 3 weeks.
Wow, okay.
And so as far as students go, there are some pieces here that are coming up that are just experiments using Macintosh. These are direct drawings and things that were done with them step by step.
Got it.
For instance, that was a drawing done a couple of weeks ago at a concert of somebody's hands playing the guitar. And then the next shot is just after it's been doctored a little bit. So you can do effects that are rather exciting.
And you're doing this with your...
What's neat about the process, that's a portrait of somebody at a event. What's neat about the process, bicycler in Carmel Valley, and there's another shot of him, is it's very fast and can communicate, and you can doctor and reuse it, and any number of ways.
Okay.
And the fact that they've been able to put access to the internet, access to photographing, all of the things that we used to have. Remember the telephone with the wire?
Yeah.
I don't think most people, in their 20s, remember what a phone like that looked like, with a dial before push buttons.
Oh, my goodness,
so all of it has come down into a little iPhone that you can do most of that stuff. So you can communicate around the world. The first time I really realized the power of computers and so forth was I was talking to a friend. I drew a picture of him, and I took it and doctored it, and we're talking on the phone, and I emailed it to him. That was in about 2000, and he said, yeah, I just sent it to my friend in Australia who doesn't know what I look like, and he likes it. And that was while we were on the phone. I realized how powerful all of this would be in terms of what you can do.
Yeah.
So all of this, by the way, the computer is a different thing than working on paper or Surface. You had a lady here talking about that earlier.
Yes.
And Surface, all of that is important to learn too, to know where that comes from.
Sure.
But all of that is a knowable thing, a learnable thing.
Yep, absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Okay, we're talking with Carey Crockett and Crockett Art. And Carey, any parting words? Or
well, I have had, the only other job that I had that was legitimate when I was in high school was I was a dishwasher. And the other job I had was an art director for 2 years. Most of the work I do, a lot of it is done outside of the Monterey area. And I've been able to make a fairly good living throughout, and I have had a wonderful, fascinating life so far. And so opportunities are there. All you need to do is stimulate the idea, and you can find your life unfolding in incredible ways. So.
Carey, thank you.
Thank you.
Usual. As usual. Okay, we've got one more interview, and let's go to a message, and we'll return with the final interview.